Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hello, my constant listener, and hello to my semi-listener, and a very warm welcome to my brand new listener. Welcome to Shaman's Way, and welcome to our podcast. I believe this is number 90. Holy moly. So I thought it would be quite appropriate to talk about the word, the feeling of hope. There are certainly many reasons currently, globally speaking, to let go of hope. There are many reasons for many people possibly listening to the sound of my voice right now, or perhaps people that you know in your life who feel like they have no hope. Hopelessness is, I think, the opposite of life. I think hopelessness is the stealer of source. So, in order to engage with you in the discussion of hope, I think it is invaluable for each of us to ask ourselves, what do we hope for? I believe that what we hope for is as individual as your particular taste in pillows or your particular taste in fill in the blank. When I think of hope, it spans many different areas and aspects of my life. I have hope for empowerment for each set of ears that are listening to me right now. I have hope that Spirit will touch you more or more deeply, or even at all, or in whatever fashion you deem to be awesome and amazing, or even just felt. I have hope that the words of Spirit will inspire you to grow, shift, change, and be more in love with at least one area of your life. Or if you can't be in love with it, perhaps even just settle for it as being the way that it is and accept it for being the way that it is. My intrepid travelers and stalwart sea humans of spirit have gone with me on many journeys, searching for images or messages within the soul that give us some sort of understanding of self. I think the understanding of self lends itself to the giving of hope. I believe it is very easy to remain discouraged by this life, not only for personal reasons, but also for political, geopolitical, environmental, for very specific geological regions and biodome regions with respect to the quality of air, the quality of water, the quality of land. There are so many things which we can and should pay attention to that need our support or need our energy. However, I believe we do ourselves a disservice if we do not believe that we in our own selves require hope. We in our own selves require a level of relationship to self and to spirit, which sustains us and gives us remedy to the wounds of self or the wounds of soul or the wounds of worth. giving us remedy to the wounds of soul, the wounds of worth, the wounds of all of those aspects. Whatever, name your wound, give it a name. We all come from the Scar clan. We all live within our wounds, but how do we take hope from that? I take hope from the fact that I have lived and surpassed my own expectations with regard to who I am and how I am. It would have been very easy for myself, based on how I grew up and where I lived in the early years of my life, to certainly be disheartened and discouraged by that which is around me. But I took solace in spirit, and I took solace in growing and changing. I took solace in finding out for myself what specifically I was made of. Am I made of grit? Am I made of softness? What am I made of? Strength and courage? Am I made of vulnerability and contemptuousness? Absolutely, to all of that and to much, much more. In the unwavering and unflinching ability to look at oneself, I believe we have the opportunity to change how we see ourselves, to changing how we actually are. I think the invaluable lesson of seeing ourselves for who we are is hope. And I'll tell you why. The reason I believe it gives you hope is because I believe you are far better than you think you are. I believe you are far more divine than you think you are. I accept and I know that your heart is bigger than you think. Your intellect is deeper than you give yourself credit for. Your ability to bring the availability of spirit into your life is greater than you give yourself credit for. I did not know those things about myself until I had taken the time to remove the masks of my shadow, to remove the masks of my conditioning, to remove the masks of the culture, my society, my upbringing, how religion impacted me, either by its inability to show up in my life. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? So if it is not in my life, it is out of my life. And am I seeking spirituality because it's never been in my life? Or did I seek spirituality because religion was a part of my life? For me, I sought spirituality as a natural outgrowth of my belief, because it was a belief in God, and my belief in in the lessons of the quote unquote the book. What I have come to learn since removing my masks is that truth is neither this nor that. Anybody can pick up a book, even a psychoanalytical book, can pick up a book on Jung or how do I understand myself. Anyone can pick up a book on how do I work with the memories of or with the experiences of PTSD, etc., etc. We can all read the book. However, if you are unable or unwilling to have the experiences, then it is far more likely that it is challenging for you to remain hopeful if the intellect is only involved within the I guess the mining of the soul, the mining of the self, the excavation of the soul and the excavation of self. As we shift and as we move from being who we thought we were to seeing ourselves for who we actually are, is a very unnerving road in some regards. You're going to bump up to some of the long held beliefs of self, and you're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged with respect to, what am I attached to in this life? What do I have an aversion for in this life? how has my childhood affected the aspects of myself? How has my ego, which really is just the consciousness of self and the representation of all of the things, or ego is simply, I'm saying this like in a simplistic sense. I know that there are many books written on ego, and there are many diving and delving philosophies respecting ego. However, for me, in the base sense of ego, ego is the repository of everything that we consciously remember at one point in time. That is ego. It's the personal unconscious, from my perspective, that, that other layer, just that liminal place between this world and that world. So that threshold place for me is that personal unconscious. By delving into my personal conscious, by making some of my unconscious conscious, and by allowing my consciousness to release long held beliefs or thought patterns that don't serve me, that were lying to me, that misled me in many ways, that gives me hope. It gives me hope that as long as I am moving forward, I have somewhere to go. Do I have a destination in mind? Absolutely not. I think that's one of the absolute joys of shamanism is I don't have to get to certain degrees. I don't have to get to different levels. I can be forever the intrepid explorer of self and soul. I love that. I think that that is exceptionally hopeful because from that perspective, my perceptions are solely my own perceptions, and my relationship to the outside world is based upon my relationship to myself, i.e., my inside world. And sometimes we have an inside world that doesn't support us, and that can be hopeless. You can feel hopeless if you are held very, very tightly by the rings of depression. You can feel hopeless if you are absolutely bound to your home due to PTSD, anxiety, agoraphobia, to any number of reasons why you wouldn't be able to move past the boundaries of your own personal and physical space. And that feels hopeless. Living in a war zone, I can't imagine what the hopelessness of that would feel like. I believe that we have many things stacked against us for feeling hope. That's why I want to talk about hope, because I really would like to impart upon you that I really believe that we have, I accept we have, I know we have the capacity to experience, to embrace, to hold, and to own hope. I know that hope comes and goes in our life. When things are going really well, we have more opportunity and ability to feel hope. When things are ramming against us and we feel the tidal wave of the world coming in to sink our little tiny boat, it is absolutely okay to feel hopeless and powerless. However, it is a challenge I offer you to come out of that feeling of hopelessness, that feeling of despair, and to travel through the realms of the mind, the realms of the soul, to encourage your relationship to yourself to soften, the edges to soften, the words inside your mind to soften about you, the words that you express to others to soften, and to encourage the voice of self confidence, the voice of self worth to be stronger than the voice of the self critic. To encourage those aspects of us. This is what I'm doing here today. I want us to know that we have the ability and even the invitation to go beyond who we were and move more fully into who we are. The exploration of self and the exploration of soul does not come without certain pitfalls. And I believe it would be naive of us to believe that or every single step in spirit is going to be a step forward. There are many times working with spirit when we can be devastated by what we see, when we can be taken aback by what we see, when we can be confused by what the messages of spirit are, when we can be confused by what we believe our direction is. I believe there are many opportunities for falling into yourself in a negative way instead of coming out of yourself in a positive way. So I think that it is easy for us to fall in, and we're going to fall in. We're human. We're going to have challenges. We're human. We're going to have etc., 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 because we're human. We are going to have neurochemical pitfalls. We are going to have physical pitfalls. We are going to have emotional pitfalls. We are going to have intellectual pitfalls. We are going to have these things. We are going to try to do spiritual bypass. I encourage you not to. I encourage you to delve into self and into soul. I'm here to tell you that hope does exist, and hope can be a fleeting friend. Hope is not always a constant companion that we pay attention to. I don't believe hope ever leaves our side. I believe that sometimes we can push hope away. What does hope look like for you? I can't answer that question. How does hope affect you? I cannot answer that question. Hope for me is that there will be a time down the road, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, where I can see myself out of a situation that perhaps I'm uncomfortable in. Hope for me is that I know if I am caught in a perplexing and damaging situation to self and to soul, I know that I have the tools, if I choose to use them, to move past, move beyond, to integrate, or even to lessen the effects of the weight of the world upon my own self. I believe in my ability to stand myself up and put one foot in front of the other. However, I also know that there are days that each one of us has frustration, depression, anxiety, sadness, loneliness, grief, fill in the blank. We have access to those emotions. I want to encourage you to access the other emotions. I want to encourage you to access the feeling of joy. I want to encourage you to access the feeling of weightlessness. I want to encourage you to access the parts of yourself that you pay less attention to. I want you to pay attention to whether or not you are a playful person. Can you play? Or is that part of the archetype of your soul? Or are you totally bypassed by the archetype of the child and really a teacher and a reasoner? So, from that perspective, can you find hope in what you teach? Can you find hope in your reasoning? Can you find hope, etc., etc., etc.? It does take work to have hope. It does take work to continually stand in the place of peace and gratitude. I don't think that it comes easy to any of us. I believe that we truly are inundated by the messages that are around us to acknowledge more of the darkness of the world as opposed to the lightness of the world. But you know that, and I know that. So, what are the things that I do that give me hope? I like to use water. I've talked about this before. I believe I have a podcast on the different types of water that we have, the moon waters, and um, that sort of aspect. So, some of the things that give me hope are to build myself a medicine wheel, and I can use the medicine wheel either on paper or I use the medicine wheel with stones. And what I do is I plot on that particular medicine wheel. If I'm working with a day, then I can plot that 24 hours. If I'm working with a month, then I plot the number of days in that month around fully around the circle. I divide it into equal spaces. If I'm working on a project that's going to take a year, then I do some, and then I break it down into the circle into 12 segments. In the center of the circle is always myself, is always self, and the relationship to the universe, relationship to the void, the relationship to whatever your relationship is. Okay? And I place inside the center of the wheel an aspect of myself that I find worthy. So, in the words of a lovely friend and a good friend, I am enough because I have a kind heart. If I wish to express my kindness throughout the year or throughout the day, and this is a way of getting to hope, I promise you, I'm not going off on a tangent. I'm staying very clear today. The ability to find hope is the part of it for me, from a practical perspective, is the ability to see something through to an end. Setting a goal, whether that goal is an emotional goal, that goal is a physical goal, that goal is a spiritual goal, that goal is a mental goal, whatever that goal is. If I can see the success, the resolution, and the process of getting from one place to another place, from one step to another step, then it gives me hope that I'm going to resolve this issue. It gives me hope that I'm going to see the end of an event and see myself on the other side. I know that some people use vision boards. I know that other people use other methods of visualizing or manifesting. And of course, I understand how this would fit within that. But because I work with the wheel, for me, the wheel is important. Because then along the wheel, I will also pull in the energies of the spirits that I know that will support me. So what spirits do you have on the east of your wheel and the south of your wheel, the west of your wheel and the north of your wheel? And that will also depend on what bioregion you live in, whether you're in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere. That will also depend. You put the kangaroo in the north because it is forever a being of strength and durability and comes in many shapes and forms? Or do you put it in the south because of, I don't know a lot about kangaroos. So my listeners in the southern hemisphere, please throw me some ideas if you have some more for me. That gives me the knowledge and reminder that I am not alone. One of the strongest allies of hopelessness is loneliness. One of the strongest allies of hopelessness and loneliness is isolation. Isolation is a strong, strong ally to hopelessness. We isolate ourselves if we believe that we are not worthy to speak our truth or speak our wounds or speak what we see. We also have that aspect of ourselves that we can see that is not to the positive. So, how do we change that? How do we not isolate ourselves? How do we not be lonely? How do we share what is going on within ourselves? How do we find a safe place? And that all comes for me with plotting this on the medicine wheel. What supports do I have around me? What supports can I draw within me? What supports can I draw from without me? I think it's invaluable to recognize the strengths that we all carry on the inside, but it's also important to recognize that our strengths can come from the relationships we have on the outside, whether that's through friends, whether that's through colleagues, whether that's with standing with like minded people, whatever that is. So, the medicine wheel and tracking what I want is one way for me to move into a place of hope. The other avenue that I try to find hope in is that I write letters to myself and I encourage myself, whatever it is I feel that I need. And I put that into a box, or in what I have a box that I use. And this, I seal it and I cover it and I leave it for however long I need it, whether it is 1 month or 2 months, in order to give myself time to make some of the changes that I know I need to make internally and manifest them externally. So I open up that letter and knowing full well that if I haven't done what I wrote in that letter, I'm going to try to stop myself from opening. I'm going to say, well, I never did it anyway, so it really doesn't matter, or whatever the self-sabotaging techniques that I have or that you have. But what I have found is that it is invaluable to read those words again for the very simple reason that I have forgotten the subtleties. And the subtleties are at times what help me gain momentum to my end region or my end goal or my end event. That helps me. So instead of degrading or berating myself, to actually have faith that what I have set up for myself is actually a tool of hopefulness and not a tool of harmfulness. I believe that we all can defeat ourselves before we even get to the finish line. I think it is more challenging to get to the finish line than to think about the finishing line. So that is another aspect of hope. The other aspect of hope, I'm going to go into journeys. The other aspect of hope that I think is invaluable on the path that we're on this beautiful shamanistic path, on having the ability to journey, having the ability to focus on whatever it is we're focusing on. In that regard, when we journey to the places where we have not gone before, and that's many times when we journey, what I want us to do is I want us to talk to spirits that have faith and hope in us. Talk to the spirits for the people that we have helped along the way. Talk to the spirits of whatever land or whatever place that you have visited and find the positive attributes of your experience or your expression upon the land, whether you've stood on the land in a good way or could stand on the land in a better way. I think that the universe conspires in the spirit world for us to not only know who we are, but remember who we are. And if we can remember who we are, then we are far more likely to recognize ourselves as beings worthy of hope and beings worthy of rejoicing and respect and love from the spirit world. It is challenging to remain upright in a world that longs to knock you down. It is challenging to remain smiling when around you are so many stories of tragedy, loss, and hopelessness. I believe it is one of my roles to be a beacon in my day-to-day life for calmness, for beauty, for grace, for hope. And also, I can do all of the other hard things. I can be a warrior. I can stand in the place of strength. I can stand blah, 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 blah. However, I believe it takes a more courageous person to stand in a place of gentleness and to stand in the place of strength. I don't want you to be walked over or, be something that bends in the wind. Be like the reed. No matter how strong the wind blows, the reed bounces back up. It can bend to incredible degrees, but it can stand straight as can be. It is invaluable to recognize your strength. It is invaluable to recognize your worth. It is invaluable to engage your self-esteem. It is invaluable to remove the masks that you have created of diminishment, loss of self, loss of worth, loss of beauty, loss of soul. It is invaluable for you to experience hope as not only something you give to others, but also something that you can embrace for yourself. And if you have a lot of hope and you have an unbounding love for hope, then please share it. There are times when we are absolutely cheerful and absolutely standing in a good place. When we encounter another one who is not feeling quite as cheerful, is not feeling quite as hopeful, that the opportunity to lash out at us is taken. And it is challenging to remain hopeful when those who are hurting lash out to us in a hurtful way. Stand in your integrity. Stand in the place of truth. Stand in the place of hope. And stand knowing that even if you feel alone, you are not alone. Take a step out of your home, if at all possible, and stand in the place of strength enough to find hope. I encourage you to, I'm not going to say that platitude, be the best that you can be, because I think that's erroneous. I give you hope that you can be exactly who you wish to be. And I have hope that through the exploration of self, you find more beauty within you than you have ever seen without. I have hope that Spirit will bend over backwards if you seek them to show you the value of self. And if they don't, then I suggest you look in your area for a good healer to help you take the blindfolds off your eyes, or to take the overbearing being away from the mind or off the heart. And whatever it is that seeks to suck the lifeblood out of you, I hope that you have a healer who can pour salt upon that bloodsucker and peel it from your body. I hope that you have a healer who can wield the swords of truth and cut away the shields of lies that you have around yourself, your heart, your mind, your soul. I have all of this and more, not only for myself, but also for you. I have faith, I have belief, and I have a knowing that our worth, our value, our ability to reach inside ourselves and to extend the hand outward is far greater than we accept and or believe it is. Thank you for giving me your honest ear, your honest time, and for sharing this moment in time with me on the 90th podcast. And I bid you a very fond farewell, and until the next time. In the meantime, be sure to check out my website. There are lots of resources. So if you are seeking information on how to journey, there are guided meditations, there are learning modules, there are drumming tracks, there are journey suggestions for you to start on your process. And if you didn't know that about the website, then I'm glad that I stopped and I told you. And if you know that about the website and it has helped you, then I hope that you're able to recommend that to your friends so that together we can gather around and share wisdom and knowledge with one another and share our hopes and dreams with one another. And you can share with me what you would like to learn more about, and I can attempt to put my thoughts to mind and to voice so that together we can continue this amazing exploration of spirit, soul, and self.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.